What's up, guys? Welcome to the video. Today we got UFC Fight Night, Rodriguez versus Waterson. Before it was supposed to be TJ Dillashaw taking on Corey Sandhagen, but TJ got a cut on his right above his eyebrow, so we got this main event. I kind of wish Magny versus Geoff Neal was the main event, but this one's not bad, I guess. Um, First fight on the card, we got Mike Trizano taking on Ludovit Klein. 145-pound fight here. We got Mike Trizano 8-1, 2 TKOs, 2 submissions, 1-1 in the UFC. Split decision over Luis Pena. Rear naked choke loss to Grant Dawson, which that's going to happen, you know. He showed a really good fight, or a really good jab in that fight, picking Grant apart with the jab, had his face opened up a little bit. He had a tough time with the takedowns and clinch game, obviously. He reversed position multiple times in the clinch, though, which was impressive. He has crisp and fast boxing. Throws a lot of straight punches, which is what I like to see. A lot of 1-2s, not too many looping and unorganized shots that are going to put him in a compromised position. Throws 1-2 with both punches of the body, which that can kind of end up getting him countered. Tough 27 winner. Prefers to keep his fights standing. Mixes in the wrestling a little bit. Good submission, good defensive submission attempts as well from the bottom position. Ludovit Klein is 17-2, 8 TKOs, 8 submissions, coming off that head kick knockout over Shane Young. Just 1-0 in the UFC. He has excellent striking. Wants to keep most of his fights standing at this point in his career. He's a southpaw with a very powerful left hand. Never really gets overly wild in his approaches. Throws straight down the pipe. So again, that's what you like to see. His best weapon definitely is his left high kick. That's the one he knocked Shane Young out with. And he has multiple knockouts with this. Sets it up with a 1-2 like Robert Whittaker does. He has great defense, striking, and takedown defense. And I think his most significant advantage here will be the speed. He should most likely, this should take place on the feet, and Ludovit should be able to land up first in most of the exchanges. Mike Trizano will be the taller guy, but at a 1-inch reach disadvantage. If he can effectively use those kicks that he does at range, you know, he's a Muay Thai kind of guy. We could see a back and forth battle, striking battle. I guess it could end up being a close fight, but I think Ludovit Klein is just the better fighter. I think if this goes to the ground, Ludovit will have the advantage, but I think Ludovit Klein should get this one done. I'm going to predict by decision. I know not a lot of his fights go to decision, but Trizano's definitely a tough guy here. Minus 250 thereabouts. I think he could be a parlay piece, possibly. But yeah, I'm going to go Ludovit Klein by decision. Moving on up, we got Tafon Chukwi taking on Jun Yong Park. Tafon 5-0 with 4 TKOs, 1-0 in the UFC, coming off that decision win over Jamie Pickett. Has a head kick KO on the Contender Series and a TKO over William Knight, which is impressive. William Knight's a pretty good striker, and Tafon got it done in the striking against him. He's fought at heavyweight and light heavyweight in the past. His first fight at middleweight was the Jamie Pickett fight, so he's kind of new to middleweight still. His jab is probably the best part of his game, really fast and powerful. The rest of his strikes are pretty slow, and like an example is his hooks, his straight left. They're not super fast. His jab is though. Oftentimes he overextends himself when he throws his left hand after the jab, kind of leaves his head out there to be countered. He was taken down by Pickett in the first round of their fight. Got up after about 10 seconds of control time. I think he's just super strong. I don't think he's too technical on the ground. Just really strong, can get up if you're not a super high level wrestler. In the second round, he ended up in a pretty dominant top position in a grappling exchange, and he didn't really look like he knew what he was doing, which is kind of concerning. So he just kind of let Jamie up, even though he had top position. His cardio looks a lot better at 185. He did slow down a little bit against Pickett, but was definitely the fresher of the two fighter. Not many kicks out of him, but some really strong clinch strikes. And he's just a really powerful guy. I think he's kind of green, though, because he's really new, but super powerful. Jun Yong Park, 12-4 with 5 TKOs, 3 submissions. He definitely has a grappling heavy style, but he's very well rounded. He's 2-1 in the UFC, coming off of a dominant win over John Phillips and a UD over Marc-Andre Barriault, and has a submission loss to Anthony Hernandez. In the John Phillips fight, you got to think maybe he should have been able to finish John Phillips. He wasn't really hitting him with too hard of shots. He was kind of just trying to ride out a decision in that fight. He usually shoots for double legs, sometimes works clinch takedowns, good clinch elbows, His boxing combos are really fast and crisp. He always throws in combinations, like 3 to 5 punch combinations, which is really impressive. And he's a great counter check left hook, which is kind of his main go-to counter. Not a lot of kicks out of him, but the ones that he does have are accurate, typically to the body. I think Tavon should be ready for the takedowns in this fight. I think that's the path that Jun Yong Park is going to take, because he's done that in all of his fights, basically. And Tavon needs to keep the center of the cage, pump his jab out there. A lot of people say his high kick's kind of his best weapon, but I feel like his jab is the fastest and the most efficient out of him, and that's going to, I think, be his path to victory in this fight. I don't really see him knocking out Jun Yong Park, to be honest, but I think that Park can get on top and really make a long night for Tafon. I think Park's grappling's on a new level in comparison to Tafon's, and I think that he can keep top pressure if he can just get a takedown in 2 of the 3 rounds. I think Jun Yong Park can actually win a decision here, and that's going to be my pick. First underdog of the card is Jun Yong Park. He's out like plus 120 now, opened at like plus 160, so money's coming in on him, and I can definitely see why. Yeah, Jun Yong Park would be a decision for me. Next fight, we got Christian Aguilera taking on Carlston Harris. Not the highest level of fight here, to be honest. We got Christian Aguilera 14-7, 11 TKOs, 4 losses by TKO as well. 1-1 in the UFC, coming off that submission loss over Sean Brady, and first round TKO over Anthony Ivy. His right hand is his best weapon, usually how he gets a lot of his KOs if you go watch his highlight reel. He did land some good shots on Sean Brady, good right hooks, good jabs. Definitely has impressive speed in the boxing, great combinations. Doesn't really show us a lot of kicks, but he does throw the low kick once in a while. No body or head kicks from him, really. Pretty good footwork. Tends to get a little too close to his opponent sometimes for too long, get countered or taken down that way. Not really good at distance management in that way. Doesn't really work the body much, really just kind of a headhunter. So we got Carlston Harris, 15-4, 4 TKOs, 4 submissions. He's coming in here making his UFC debut. Wins over fighters with excellent records like 19-2, 11-1, 13-4. Has a win over Michel Pereira, which you kind of know the game plan to beat Michel Pereira at this point. It's to out-grapple him, and that's what he did in that fight. Striking is really not that good, to be honest. Doesn't really throw in combination, just one or 2 strikes at a time. Not really any speed or power. Pretty sloppy on the feet in general. He's a primary grappler with heavy top pressure. Goal is to close the distance, work the clinch, find a body lock takedown. Doesn't really have the most impressive takedowns either. He's kind of just a jiu-jitsu guy. When the fight gets to the ground, I'm going to keep it there, that type of thing. Definitely shown a lack of defense on the feet. Suspect chin. He's been wallowed with jabs in some of his fights. I think Christian will definitely want to keep this one standing. If not, he's going to be faced with a lot of top pressure. And switch up his game plan. Throw more leg kicks to try to immobilize and mitigate the wrestling of Carlston. Carlston will definitely try to get the takedowns here, and I think Christian will have a pretty big advantage on the feet. Carlston will probably have a pretty big advantage on the ground. I think I'm just going to favor Carlston Harris to get this one done by decision. I don't think we're going to see a finish unless Christian knocks him out kind of early in the first. Christian does slow down pretty drastically. I think Carlston should be able to find the takedowns in at least 2 of the 3 rounds. Minus 155. I don't really think. I think that's a little high here. Minus 140. I don't know. It's a pretty close fight. I wouldn't trust either of these guys with my money, though. So Carlston Harris will be a decision. Moving on up. Fight of the night right here. We got Maurice Green taking on Marcos Rogerio de Lima. We got Maurice Green, 9-5, 5 submissions, 3-3 in the UFC. He is a jiu-jitsu style fighter, has poor boxing, however. His kicks are pretty decent. That's kind of the best part of his striking game. Throws him to the head, body, legs. Cardio is really bad. Definitely gassed in the second round against Hardy and gassed at the end of the first against Olenek. He does have good submission attempts off of his back. That's kind of where his staple of his game is. Never landed a takedown once in the UFC and has a 28% takedown defense. So the wrestling is really poor from him. The striking is really poor from him. Kind of just a submission guy, if that. Sometimes he can't even throw up submission attempts. So haven't really seen a lot out of Maurice Green as far as skill goes. We got Marcos Rogerio de Lima, 17-7 with 12 TKOs, 6-5 in the UFC. All 5 of his losses are by submission. It's a pretty decent or even good level of competition. Coming off a loss to Alexander Romanov, which is going to happen, obviously. In his fight against Ben Sassoli, he went out very hard, got the finish, threw huge hooks and a few leg kicks. That's kind of all we saw from him there. He's kind of like a brawl-style fighter, like barrage of shots. Usually game plan is to come out very hard, like I said. Predominantly a striker for sure. Only landed 3 takedowns in his whole UFC career, and only a 43% takedown defense. If the fight does get to the ground, he struggles defensively for the submission. And Maurice Green has never landed a takedown, but he does his best work on the ground. That's why this fight is so kind of weird. His path to victory is really not there. Maybe he'll land his first takedown on Marcos. I don't know, but Marcos does tend to go out pretty fast in the first round and then gasses. I think both guys are going to gas. So whoever's going to be the fresher fighter in the third round, maybe we see a third round TKO from either one of these guys. I just feel like Marcos has way more paths to victory here, and won't have to worry about being taken down because we haven't, as far as we know, Maurice Green doesn't even have any wrestling. So if he stays on the feet, I feel like he definitely should get the first round TKO here. Um, minus 175. That's kind of how I see it here. I mean, both fighters just really are not high level guys, so we'll kind of see where this one goes. Maybe it turns out to be a fun fight. Who knows? Moving on up, we got Ryan Benoit taking on Zaruk Adashev. This is actually going to probably be my pick for fight of the night. I know a lot of people are going to kind of be like, what? But both these guys bang, and they're going to stand. They're going to absorb a lot of strikes. They're going to throw a lot of strikes. It should be a fun fight no matter which way it goes. Ryan Benoit, kind of a salty record here, 10-7, but with eight TKOs, coming off a very close fight over Tim Elliott. A lot of people thought that he won this fight, as did I. He was many steps ahead in the striking, but for some reason decided to shoot for a takedown in the second round and almost got caught in a guillotine here. Tim then reversed position and probably stole that round just because Ryan shot for a takedown for some reason. He has really, really fast and powerful hands, especially for the division. Works the legs a decent amount, has a very dangerous head kick as well. Excellent jab, excellent counter left hook. Those are his two best weapons for sure. Kind of an inconsistent fighter, obviously, like his record indicates. 7 losses, but has a win over Sergio Pettis and a split decision loss to Brandon Moreno, so he was able to make those fights close. He does have slick jiu-jitsu scrambles. Was kind of going for a leg lock against Tim Elliott, so he has it in his back pocket if he needs it. A lot of his losses are against grapplers. He has great takedown defense, however, at 70%. He himself doesn't engage in the grappling too much, mainly just a distance striker. Zaruk Adashev, 3-3, 0-2 in the UFC. His first loss was a KO by Tyson Nam, and then a decision loss to Subu Darji. He has kind of like a blitzing in style because he's kind of a shorter dude with kind of a small reach as well. And he comes straight at his opponents throwing huge overhands and hooks. He does have a lot of speed behind these shots and a lot of power for sure. His striking accuracy, however, is only 23%. So across both of his UFC fights, so it's like, yeah, you're throwing a ton of strikes, but you're not really landing much. So I feel like he can be easily countered by front kicks up the middle, can just kind of stop him right in his tracks. That left hook from Ryan Benoit could definitely come into play here. But I feel like Zaruk's going to have to definitely come in here with a more composed game plan than in the Sumu Darji fight. I feel like he's just kind of headhunting. He's going to have to try to point fight at least a little bit more than he usually does. I think Benoit is going to be countering all day if he rushes in, like I said. Benoit is definitely the more technical guy. Zaruk's going to need to use his speed and be unpredictable, kind of use his jab a little bit more. Like I said, make this maybe a boring and kind of patient fight. That's going to be his path to victory here. I feel like if he just traditionally rushes in like he always does, he's just going to get countered all day by the more technical striker in Benoit. And he could use his jab more, have success following up with one of the overhands and maybe putting his lights out. But I feel like Ryan Benoit is definitely going to just wear on him here and get a third round TKO. Is going to be my prediction. Ryan Benoit minus 150. It does seem like a pretty close fight. Both guys are not too high level, but I definitely think Ryan Benoit is just the better fighter. I kind of like that line, actually. Ryan Benoit by third round TKO. Next fight, we got Phil Hawes taking on Kyle Daukaus. This is a fun fight here for sure. Phil Hawes, 10-2, 7 TKOs. He's a former D1 wrestler at Iowa State. Uses wrestling in a lot of his fights. I feel like he strikes a bit too much, would have more success if he made wrestling kind of his main game plan. He did primarily wrestle in the Imavov fight. You could tell he wanted to strike in the first round, but he just couldn't with a guy with better striking than him in Imavov like that. Striking isn't too technical, but it is very, very powerful, very fast. Throws a good leg kick, good overhand right. He doesn't have a big, wide array of strikes on the feet. He's kind of just jab, overhand right kind of guy, but he does try to get fights into the clinch, work against the cage, some clinch strikes, look for a double leg. When the fight gets to the ground, definitely has really good top control, great hand control, likes to grab his opponent's hands. It's very common in wrestling and just kind of keep them there, not able to let them build their base up. Questionable cardio for sure, not great striking defense. He was pieced up by Imavov with just no footwork, no head movement, anything like that. So it's pretty questionable as far as that goes. Kyle Daukaus, 10-1, 8 submissions, 1-1 in the UFC, has a decision loss to Brendan Allen. Definitely is a primary grappler as well, but he does look great on the feet in his recent fights. His great boxing combos, a fast left hand, fluid strikes all around wherever he's going with it. Good striking defense as well, in and out movement to kind of avoid those. Good clinch control. He's a lot stronger than he looks. He kind of looks like a tall, kind of sort of skinny dude, but he's super strong. Reversed the position against Brendan Allen on the ground and in the against the cage. Landed some really good combos on Brendan Allen. Huge elbows, excellent takedown defense. High output for sure in the takedown department. I feel like in this fight, Hawes will try to wrestle and control Daukaus on the ground. I feel like this is going to be kind of a jiu-jitsu versus wrestling stylistic matchup, and we're going to see this fight take place on the ground, I would imagine, like for the majority of the fight. Hawes has a 1-inch reach advantage, but Daukaus is 3 inches taller, and he is known to use his distance a lot better than Hawes. Hawes hasn't shown a whole lot of head movement. I feel like if the fight stays on the feet and Daukaus can avoid Hawes' big power, he should be able to pick him apart with his jab, with his left hand as well. Hawes will probably be trying to wrestle, so Daukaus needs to be ready to defend takedowns, maybe try to initiate a clinch situation and work his own takedowns. But it's gonna be pretty hard to take down a guy like Hawes. I feel like Daukaus could kind of tire him out, and then Hawes will probably go for like a panic takedown later in the fight when he's kind of has questionable cardio. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Kyle Daukaus land a submission here in the third round. And that's kind of what I'm going to go with here. I think Kyle Daukaus should be able to submit him. We have seen Phil Hawes submitted before. This line is really close. It could be a close fight. We might see Kyle Daukaus just get controlled on the ground. Who knows? Or we might see him get knocked out in the first, but very close fight. I'm going to side with Daukaus here. I just think there's a little bit more advantages in his way for sure. Kyle Daukaus, third round submission. Moving on, we got Diego Ferreira taking on Gregor Gillespie. Been seeing a lot of people all over the place on this fight, so it should be a good one. Diego 17-3, 7 submissions, 8-3 in the UFC, 2 losses to Beneil Dariush and 1 to Dustin Poirier. So he's only lost to like high level elite competition. He's primarily a jiu-jitsu guy, taken down many times by Beneil Dariush, had a hard time getting up, but he's throwing up armbar attempts, triangle attempts, things like that from bottom position. Has just really slick jiu-jitsu. Submission threat in any position. We've seen him get rear nakeds, arm triangles, things like this from all positions. He does have good striking for a fighter who's not a main striker. Good 1-2s, nice front kick to the head. Slightly below average striking defense, I would say. He was pieced up by Beneil. At times in that fight, he just looked like he just was out of it, didn't really move his head a whole lot. Likes to work his takedowns from the clinch. Like against Anthony Pettis, he clinched with him, got a body lock trip takedown, which I love to see. 68% takedown defense, but when he does get taken down, he tends to get controlled there. Gregor Gillespie, 13-1, 6 TKOs, 5 submissions, coming off that brutal KO loss to Kevin Lee, about a year and a half layoff. That was in November of 2019, so maybe, depending on, some fighters come back a lot stronger, some fighters come back a lot worse. He's been off for a while, so we might see a new version of him. He's 34, so he's getting up there in age, but Diego's 36, but we got two kind of old guys here. All of his submissions are from top position, arm triangles and rear nakeds. He is definitely a primary wrestler, former D1 wrestler. His striking is okay, I would say. He has a good jab, good straight right. Knocked out some fighters on the feet with his left hook. Not a whole lot of kick-heavy approach from him. in the Kevin Lee fight, he didn't really shoot for any takedowns, and I feel like that's kind of why he paid for it. He probably should have been more active with the wrestling, or at least trying to engage in it. 47% takedown accuracy, so not the highest takedown accuracy from him. 7 takedowns per 15 minutes, but he does have a lot of output. He's kind of like Marab. He kind of just shoots for a ton of takedowns. And he has never been taken down in the UFC. I feel like the striking's close between these guys, and I think Diego will feel like he is better in the striking and try to keep this one standing. I don't think he'll have luck taking down Gregor. Diego's not really known for his offensive wrestling, more of a defense guy who reverses position a lot. And I think we could see Gregor get repetitive takedowns like Benoit was able to do. Benoit was just able to keep taking down Diego over and over. I don't see why Gregor shouldn't be able to land the takedown. The question is, I feel like, is Diego going to be able to land a submission off his back? I feel like it's definitely very possible for that to happen. I feel like Gregor should keep this fight on the ground, try to just keep getting the takedowns over and over, and I think he should have luck with that. Could play out a little bit close, but I'm going to go Gregor Gillespie by decision. Wrestler versus jiu-jitsu style of fight here. I understand this line for sure, minus 185. But I feel like there's value on Ferreira here, maybe value on Ferreira by submission for sure as well. But overall pick, Gregor Gillespie by decision. I think he just gets the takedowns, rinse and repeat for the whole time. Next fight, we got Neil Magny versus Geoff Neal. Seems like a pretty fun fight. Geoff Neal's 13-3, 8 TKOs. UFC wins over Mike Perry, Nico Price, and Bilal Muhammad. I feel like anyone who has a win over Bilal Muhammad's kind of that upper echelon of fighter, you know. Bilal Muhammad is a great fighter. Geoff Neal was able to keep it standing with him, win on the feet. Coming off of that kind of that dominant loss to Stephen Thompson, which if you can't take Stephen Thompson down, you're pretty much going to lose to him, you know. He's a primary boxer. His best punch is a straight left. Really good close uppercuts when he does get in kind of the closer range. And likes to throw combinations, huge power, especially for this division. Not a super kick-heavy approach from him, though. He's kind of just a boxer. He's able to take Nico Price down twice. Outside of this, he doesn't really have any wrestling in the UFC. Takedown defense is amazing at 92%, and defended all 7 of Bilal's takedowns. I would consider Bilal a primary wrestler nowadays. We've seen him control guys on the ground. He was not able to get Geoff Neal down. Geoff Neal just a super physically strong guy. He does like to initiate the clinch situation, but at most times it seems like he's doing that just for control time. Doesn't really try to land a whole lot of strikes there. Doesn't really try to work the takedown. He's a high output striker at 4.94 significant strikes per minute with great forward pressure. That striking number is really high for the middleweight division. For the welterweight division. He is a high out. Oh yeah, I already said that. Neil Magny, 24-8 with 7 TKOs, coming off that loss to Michael Chiesa, which he just kind of got dominated in the grappling. He has good wins over Li Jingliang, Anthony Rocco Martin, Robbie Lawler. I feel like that Anthony Rocco Martin win is a little bit underrated. I feel like Anthony's an elite fighter. Don't really know why he got cut from the UFC, but Neil Magny was able to handle him for sure. In most of his fights, he does try to grapple. He has 2.46 takedowns per 15 minutes. Striking is very orthodox, almost exclusively throws straight punches down the middle, like his jab and straight. Mixes in a few low kicks, front teeps to the body. So he does use kind of his distance strikes very well, but not a whole lot of power or speed. But like I said, constantly just using his range there. His 80-inch reach is huge. Most of his takedowns are body lock trip takedowns, which you kind of have to be stronger than your opponent to achieve that. He does not really engage in single legs or double legs that much, or any distance wrestling exchanges. 58% takedown defense. I feel like Neil Magny's path to victory here would be to keep pressuring Geoff until he can engage in the clinch and look for takedowns from there. But I feel like Geoff is just really, really strong in the clinch. On the feet, I feel like this fight's somewhat close. It's kind of like Geoff's output and power versus Neil's range and jab. I feel like Geoff's output would kind of give him the advantage, a very, very slight advantage on the feet. Yeah, like I said, Neil would want to prioritize using that jab. Geoff can win this fight on the feet for sure. I just think he should be strong and technical enough to avoid Neil Magny's grappling initiations. I think he should be able to keep this one on the feet. I think we're going to see a striking battle possibly take place a little bit in the clinch, but I think Geoff Neal should be able to get this one done by decision, I would say. I don't think he's going to finish Magny. Magny's a super tough guy. But the line, I feel like the value's on Magny. I think this line should be a lot closer. I would put Geoff at kind of no more than like a minus 150. I think this is very high. I would not trust this straight up or in a parlay. So yeah, I think value here is on Neal Magny, but I'm going to be picking Geoff Neal by decision. Moving on up, we got Amanda Ribas taking on Angela Hill. This is a very close fight, by the way. Amanda Ribas, 10-2, 4 submissions. Primarily a jiu-jitsu style fighter, but she does have decent striking. But like I said, it's not the most strong part of her game. She can tend to throw wildly, blitz forward for a few seconds too long, kind of keep herself in danger like we saw against Marina Rodriguez. Striking defense is 71%, but she was pieced up against Marina Rodriguez, so she's definitely struggles with high-level strikers. Chin is suspect, KO'd against Polyana Viana, basically KO'd twice against Marina. Throws a spinning back kick quite often. Takedown accuracy of 58%, not really face the best wrestlers, however. Takedowns are not always very efficient. When she does get the fight to the mat, she has very heavy top pressure, always looking for the submission. Angela Hill, 13-9, 5 TKOs. Coming off a UD win over Ashley Yoder. Before this, she lost split decisions to Michelle Waterson and Claudia Gadelha. Both fights were very close. You could say that Angela Hill's on a 5-fight winning streak, kind of. She's shown very suspect fight IQ, in my opinion, in grappling defense. Like against Brandon Marcos, just kind of puts herself in bad positions that she doesn't have to. Recently, she has been looking like a whole new fighter in comparison to those losses on her record. Taken down twice by Ashley Yoder, but got up very quickly. 76% takedown defense. She's primarily a striker with excellent clinch work, clinch elbows, things like that. She has great striking in general and a wide array of strikes. I just feel like this one is very simple. I kind of like fights like this. They're a little bit, I wouldn't say easy to predict, but they're simple. It's either going to be Amanda with the grappling or Angela with the striking. I don't really see Amanda beating Angela on the feet, and I don't really see Angela beating Amanda on the grappling. So we're going to see. I feel like if Ribas can get this one to the ground, she should be able to win. But then again, 76% takedown defense is pretty good. She did get taken down by Ashley Yoder. Kind of hard to tell where Angela Hill's takedown defense is. But if Ribas does get this one down, she has super heavy top pressure. Angela Hill has been submitted before by much lesser competition than Ribas and Randa Marcos, so we're going to have to see. I feel like Ribas should be able to get this one down. I'd be surprised if she doesn't land a takedown all fight, and it just depends. It depends on that. The line right now is definitely off, in my opinion. I feel like this one should be very, very much closer, but I'm going to take Amanda Ribas by decision. Moving on up, we got Ben Rothwell taking on Philipe Lins. Ben is 38-13 with 28 TKOs. Primarily a boxer, has landed some submissions from his back, though, against high-level grapplers themselves. Comes out strong and aggressive every time in the first round, and he drastically slows down in the second, kind of like the typical heavyweight, to be honest. And a lot of his opponents are able to take over in the second round. Not a whole lot of kicks, does have a lot of hand speed and combinations. Throws an overhand right after his jab. That's kind of his main go-to, is that big overhand. He's always looking for the knockout. Coming off that loss to Marcin Tybura, and Marcin Tybura kind of known as more as a grappler nowadays, and was able to outstrike Ben Rothwell. Basically just as this fight went on, Ben slowed down. Marcin kind of slowed down as well, but not as much. Just was able to output him. Not really shooting for takedowns often at this point in his career. He was earlier, not really anymore. He is getting up there in age, 39 years old. I know age doesn't really matter as much with heavyweights, but it is a factor to consider. Philipe Lins, 14-5. He has struggled in his UFC run so far. He's 0-2 with a decision loss to Andrei Arlovsky, TKO loss to Tanner Boser. He has been TKO'd 4 times in his career. I guess neither of those losses are too bad. Those are 2 pretty high-level guys. The TKO loss to Tanner Boser, for me, is a bit sketchy. but it's not like the worst loss you can have on your record. He's also a primary striker, 8 TKOs, mainly a boxer, I would say. Mixes in some of his clinch work sometimes, some slick submissions, and a nice guillotine choke from the PFL. So we know he's been in there with high-level guys, has finished high-level guys early on in the fight. On the feet, he keeps his left hand low a lot of the times. It's really weird. If you go watch him against Arlovsky, you can see his left hand, his right hand's right by his head, his left hand's kind of at his midsection. I think it's kind of him trying to kind of prime himself up, ready himself to throw the counter left hook to get a little bit more power behind it. But I feel like his opponents make reads on this and kind of counter with the right hand a lot. And Ben Rothwell's got that right hand. We know that. I feel like this is one of the closer fights. Not because it's like so hard to break down, but just because I feel like it's, a heavyweight fight that guys can gas out. There's too many unknown variables is what I'm trying to say. Both guys typically heavy boxing approach, and I feel like it's a fight we're going to see here. And I don't think it's going to be super technical for the first round. I think it's going to be a slugfest. Ben might be able to get him out of there. But if Ben can get the right hand going, I think that he can definitely land that on Felipe. I feel like if Felipe can survive the first round, his chances get better. He's coming off quite the layoff, so I think over a year. So he should be recovered by now. I don't really think he's going to get TKO'd in the first. So I'm going to go with Felipe by decision. I think he's a bit more technical as the fight goes on. He has the better cardio. And I think he has more speed. I think what's going to happen is Ben's going to kind of gas himself out like he usually does and get finished late. I'm going to go TKO in the third. You got right now Philipe Lins minus 110. Yeah, it's kind of an even fight here. That's why I said it's one of the more close ones. That's kind of how I see it as well. But I'm going to slightly edge Philipe Lins, get this one done. Next fight on the card, we got Marina Rodriguez taking on Michelle Waterson. Both women are taking this one on short notice. 5-round main event here. Marina Rodriguez, 13-1-2, coming off that KO win over Amanda like we mentioned before. Before this, she lost a very close fight to Carla Esparza. She's a primary striker with a boxing-heavy approach. She uses her range and speed very well. Struggled basically only against grapplers. 2 draws, both to Calvillo and Marcos, and then the loss to Esparza. She's never really struggled against a striker. She has pretty elite striking. The draw to Marcos is kind of concerning, but I feel like once you kind of are tired, get a 10-8 round in the third to a grappler, I feel like it's kind of understandable. She's very good defensively, uses in and out movement to avoid strikes and takedowns. She's a high output striker, very high output, 4.86 significant strikes thrown or landed per minute. She is very excellent in the clinch. Great elbows from bottom position, like we saw in the Esparza fight. She was in the bottom position and she was just throwing up huge elbows, sliced Esparza's face open multiple times. So pretty impressed with that for sure. Michelle Waterson is 18-8 with 9 submissions. Most of her submissions are earlier on in her career. I was pretty surprised to see she had 9 submissions because she's more of a Taekwondo style of fighter now. Very, very kick-heavy approach. One of the more kick-heavy approaches that you'll ever see in the UFC, I believe. Just like we saw in the Angela Hill fight. She basically exclusively fought with her kicks. Throws kicks to all parts of the body, axe kicks, side kicks, spinning kicks. It's pretty impressive to watch for sure, but her boxing isn't the most efficient. She'll kind of be far out of range and throw that kind of 2 or 3 punch combo. Like, not really sure why she does that. To me, it kind of seems like a waste of energy, and her opponents know she's out of range, so they're not like biting on a feint or anything like that. So it's pretty odd to see. Her wrestling is okay a lot of her times. Her takedowns are from the headlock throw position. She does have good 5-round cardio. Went 5 rounds many times against Angela Hill and Joanna. She's not easy to finish. Joanna landed over 180 strikes on her. Couldn't get her out of there even. 34% takedown accuracy, which, she is a veteran in the UFC. That's going to happen. It's going to lower as time goes on. 1.52 takedowns per 15 minutes, so she does usually land a takedown in every one of her fights. But I feel like Marina will want to keep Waterson on her back foot, keep applying that sort of pressure so she can mitigate the possible takedown attempts and the kick-heavy approach from Waterson. This will also keep Marina inside of boxing range, and that's kind of where she does her best work with the elbows, with the jabs, with everything like that. Waterson should try to keep her own distance, and definitely be wiser to get the wrestling going at some point in 3 of the 5 rounds, I would say. I feel like Marina should have a somewhat big advantage on the feet here, but I think Waterson's best chance on the feet is to kind of keep herself in kicking range, like we've seen in the past many times from her. But ultimately, I feel like, Waterson's 35, Marina's 33. I don't really think age is going to be a factor here. I feel like Marina Rodriguez is just a little bit better. I guess I don't really think I'm surprised with this line. I think it's a pretty close fight, but I feel like Marina just has the upper hand in a lot of, situations where this fight could go. So I'm going to go Marina Rodriguez by decision. Just going through the whole card, I got Ludovit Klein by decision, Jun Yong Park by decision, Carlston Harris by decision, Rogerio de Lima by first round TKO, Ryan Benoit by third round TKO, Kyle Daukaus by third round submission, Gregor Gillespie by decision, Geoff Neal by decision, Amanda Ribas by decision, Philipe Lins by third round TKO, and Marina Rodriguez by decision. So yeah, I don't really know. As far as the betting goes, I feel like I'm going to put Ludovit Klein in the parlay. It's probably the most confident pick. I like the underdog stab at Jun Yong Park. Maybe an underdog stab at Neil Magny. And I feel like that's about it. This is kind of a hard card to get a hold of in the betting, but those are probably going to be my 3 plays for sure. But yeah, thank you.